admin is a massive waste of time. That's why there's Atlas, the AI-first recruitment platform built for modern agencies. It doesn't only track resumes and calls. It remembers everything, every email, every interview, every conversation, instantly searchable, always available. And now it's entering a whole new era. With Atlas 2.0, you can ask anything and it delivers. With Magic Search, you speak and it listens. It finds the right candidates using real conversations, not simply looking for keywords. Atlas 2.0 also makes business development easier than ever. With opportunities, you can track, manage, and grow client relationships powered by generative AI and built right into your workflow. Need insights? Custom dashboards give you total visibility over your pipeline. And that's not theory. Atlas customers have reported up to 41% EBITDA growth and an 85% increase in monthly billings after adopting the platform. No admin, no silos, no lost info, nothing but faster shortlists, better hires, and more time to focus on what actually drives revenue. Atlas is your personal AI partner for modern recruiting. Don't miss the future of recruitment. Get started with Atlas today and unlock your exclusive listener offer at recruitwithatlas.com. Coming up on this episode of the Elite Recruiter Podcast.
Change is the only constant in our profession. And if you can't roll with the change, you are going to get rolled over by change. To my sorcerer friends, I'm not saying to throw in the towel, but what I am saying is you need to evolve. You need to do something more than become a Boolean string artisan.
Welcome to the Elite Recruiter Podcast with your host, Benjamin Mena, where we focus on what it takes to win in the recruiting game. We cover it all from sales, marketing, mindset, money, leadership, and placements.
Recruiters, imagine having a recruiting sidekick that works 24 hours a day. Meet Pin, your AI-powered assistant that never sleeps. Pin combs through over 850 million candidate profiles to find perfect fits for your clients, even those hard-to-find unicorns. It then engages them across email, LinkedIn, and SMS with smart outreach that gets nearly half of candidates to respond. And Pin doesn't stop there. It automatically screens resumes with pinpoint precision and handles the back and forth of interview scheduling for you. It's like having an extra team member who never clocks out, so you can fill roles faster and focus on closing deals. Visit pin.com to book your demo today. I'm excited about this episode of the Elite Recruiter Podcast for two things. It's an important conversation that I think we need to have, and two, it's actually get to chat with one of my good friends. And this person has become a friend probably because of this podcast. But here's the thing. AI is absolutely changing what is happening in recruiting. It's changing how we operate. It's changing the roles that we have. And what we're going to talk about today is the role of a sorcerer. Like, it was one of the most amazing roles and fun roles that came about due to Boolean and the internet. But here's the thing. AI is killing it. A year from the day of this recording, just about a year from the day of this recording, I was sitting in the back of the room of a huge recruiting conference, and it was the executive of one of the biggest sourcing tools out there, like the CEO. I'm not going to say which tool it was, but like he was sitting there just kind of chatting with me as I was prepping for like my talk, which was going to be next. He's like, I don't know why these people are still hanging on. This position and this role is going to be dead soon. And we're seeing it. Like, the tech's gotten so good, but that's why I'm excited to have one of my best friends and also one of the best sorcerers I have ever met to talk about how this role and this position is evolving. So Brian, welcome back to the podcast, buddy.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation. I'm probably going to get some haterade because of where I kind of fall in this gamut or this spectrum. But I think that I started to see the writing was on the wall maybe about 2 years ago when I transitioned from being a sorcerer at Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it today, XAI, and became a full life cycle corporate recruiter again. And, you know, that's one of the things that happens. Change is the only constant in our profession. And if you can't roll with the change, you are going to get rolled over by change.
So real quick, 30 seconds. I know you really well, Brian, but for people that this is the first time they're hearing you, quick self-introduction.
Yeah. So, hey, my name is Brian Fink. I am Maddie's daddy. That is my 9-year-old daughter. I'm married to Allie, who popped in here earlier to say hi to me and Ben. Beyond that, what I think you need to know is I've been in recruiting for about 20 plus years. I've started on the sales side. I migrated to recruiting. I did full desk. I had my own agency. I turned around agencies. I spun out agencies. I went corporate. And I like to believe that recruiters are the ultimate stand-up comedians. If you read anything that I write, you know that I think I'm pretty funny to myself. You can be the judge of that. But about stand-up comedians, you know, Jerry Seinfeld, he had a great series, Seinfeld, and he went back to stand-up. I think that recruiting is something that you've always got to be aware of, that there are changes that are coming, and you can either be part of the change or you can be the way of the dinosaur.
And like, here's the thing, like we normally start off this interview of like how you ended up in this wonderful world of recruiting, but because we've already done that on a previous episode, go back and find that episode to get Brian.
Episode 100 of the Elite Recruiter Podcast. Go back and find it. Use your Boolean. Elite Recruiter Podcast, episode 100. Sorry. Okay.
Well, on top of that, like you've also spoken at a few of the summits that I put on about sourcing and about finding people and like all this stuff. So like you are one of the experts out there in the space. And, you know, if you want to watch those videos, definitely like join the community. Easiest place to find those videos. But you teach sourcing.
Dude, yeah, I teach sourcing, right? What I try to teach is that the tools and tactics evolve, but the goal remains the same. And I think that there are a lot of people that are resisting the changes that are happening and they're not adapting, right? So why do we source, right? Companies need to make money. They need people to make money, to build products, to provide healthcare, to fix cars, to build buildings, whatever, to code software. There are ways to find individuals, right? You can go on Facebook and find your blue collar employees. You can go to GitHub and find technologists. You can go to Crunchbase. You can go all these places. It's very manual. And that frustrates me to no end. Like that just really gets me upset because we have gone from an environment. So Ben and I were talking before the call about me and my fax machine, is that I had a fax machine as a recruiter. In the early 2000s, you know, we jumped from fax machine recruiting and classified ads to monster.com as the first job board in ATS. Agencies, Ben, you and I both worked at an agency where we were taught to pitch and say, well, we've got a great database of candidates. What the hell does that mean today, right? Like, I've got the entire internet.
I mean, it's almost everybody's playing with the same database now.
Yeah, everybody is playing with the same database, right? Like if you have Perplexity, Ben, do you use Perplexity or you
love Perplexity?
Okay, so like Perplexity, one of the courses that I teach routinely to people is you can put Boolean into Perplexity and it will get you better results than putting Boolean into a Google, right? If you say, go out and find me 500 HR representatives in Atlanta, Georgia that worked for major companies. In the past, they worked for Coca-Cola and their Gmail addresses and put it in a CSV. Okay. It does all that work in like 10 minutes with deep research, right?
Okay. Like just like picture a year ago, if you were building that pipeline of people or that like you were sourcing that list, how long would that have taken you like a year or two ago?
Oh man. Using like one of my favorite tools, Interstellar, it would have taken me manually probably 45 to 60 minutes. Yeah, it would have taken me a while because like Interstellar, the way it worked is it would hover a button on LinkedIn and you could just click it and add the person and it would find their contact information and you could export to CSV. But you know, that was like, I mean, that Stephen Liu's genius, right? Like he does awesome stuff. And Stephen Liu, shout out if you're listening, Stephen Liu is the future of recruiting, right? He's a serial entrepreneur that does it. But the reality of it is that like to go through LinkedIn and to click through all those profiles, you're going to spend 45 minutes. You're going to spend an hour. You're going to spend 2 hours. There are better, higher value tasks that you as a 360 recruiter, as a person who owns your own desk, owns your own business, that you can be working on, that you can be jamming and dialing down on. People talk about this, that if we automate sourcing, it's going to make recruiting less human. No. And then there's the argument that we're going to be able to spend more time with our candidates and make recruiting less transactional, right? Why wouldn't you want to do these things? Why wouldn't you want to spend less time doing your job and more time enjoying, like Ben, you and I run, right? Like, why wouldn't I want to spend more time like breaking in these hokas and getting another 100-mile a month underneath my belt?
Yeah. I mean, I actually did a run right before this episode or this recording. I was like, I need to go clear my head and go think about like, you know, what we're going to talk about and that's what I did. Went out and hit a 5-mile run.
Yeah. Well, you know, about what we're going to talk about, sourcing and recruiting are always changing. I think though that, and I'm going to get the haterade for this, is that there's so many disparate systems and there's so many processes that create a bad candidate experience And we forget that we're in the people business. And I think that sometimes sourcers, and I know there are a lot of definitions of sourcers. There are people who just do name generation. That's dead. That's going away. Okay. There are a million tools that you can use to generate names, anything from Apollo to Seek Out to just, I can list them all, right? Like Hire Easy, what have you. But what I think is lost in this conversation and where people get defensive and bow up about this is that sourcing will always be about human connection. Well, I think recruiting will always be about a human connection. It's just crazy. You know, I think about this presentation that was given at the next to last SourceCon that Tommy Weinhardt gave. Okay. And it was a presentation where he had a slide of dude who leaked all the government secrets, Edward Snowden, right? And this dude leaks all these, and everybody's upset about the fact that he leaked all these secrets. But now we're all going to Chat GPT and we're all able to find software. We're all able to have an opportunity where we can rigorously and very quickly get beyond security controls and break through paywalls. And nobody seems to care about it, right? Like outrage has changed too.
I think that going past the paywalls and like the whole copyrighted information and how that's like changing. Cause I remember that years ago, like they charged like one guy for like a few gigabytes worth of data, and now like everything's being copied.
Well, you know, so thinking about this, like when we got started or 10 years ago, when Boolean was really cool, you could type in site : indeed.com space file type : PDF, and then type in what you wanted. And it would bring you back the resumes that you have to pay $1 a click for on Indeed today, right? Like crazy shit.
Okay. So real quick, like using sourcing, are you still able to get past some of these paywalls?
So I may or may not go and do site command : we'll say zoominfo.com space quotation marks superintendent or groundskeeper. Let's do that. Or let's do plumber, or let's do air conditioning technician and put it in quotes, right? And you know, I'm really obsessed with finding blue collar candidates these days when I'm working with my friends outside of recruiting. Cause like, you know, look, I find developers, engineers, AI engineers all the time, and I know where to look for them, but like the real hunt is going down these rabbit holes. But like, yeah, you can go beyond paywalls. You can pull out phone numbers all the time from a ton of these sites. And the thing about it is it's not a violation of terms of service, because they're wanting that information to be scraped and indexed by Google to give you partial. So you'll click on it and sign up. But instead it's showing you in the meta results the full phone number and email address. So screw you guys. I'm going home. Right.
Is there anything else that you're like able to like, and you don't have to name the actual company that you're breaking past the paywall, but like, what else are you breaking past? Because I know you actually spoke at one of the summits, and you can see those recordings of you hacking into AWS.
Yeah. So here's the thing is like, you can go into S3 buckets that are publicly available information that haven't been locked down. And yeah, so go back, check out the summit or DM me, and I'll be more than happy to like show you how to do this. But like a friend of mine who is going to go nameless, who works for one of the Fank companies, he was like, Yo, B, did you really do that? And I'm like, yeah, Steve, sorry. Yeah, I did. And I showed him how to do it. And he was like, that's crazy, right? Because what happens is for me, I look for a lot of developers, a lot of engineers, and they're on one of three drugs for cloud storage. They're on AWS. No, I mean, think about it, Ben, is that these guys and gals, they're given AWS credits to get started so they can start building their application in AWS with the intention that that's going to hold on to it. So if I want to, I can go and look up their code base inside of AWS because maybe they didn't lock it down properly. You know, 9 out of 10 engineers are not security engineers. They're not taking all the protocols, and they're also pushing code to GitHub. So GitHub's another place that I love to go to get resumes, right? Like site : github.com space resume, quotation mark, DevOps engineer, close quotation marks, space, parentheses, K8, and or's capitalized, Kubernetes, close parentheses, boom. And it brings back resumes of engineers who are DevOps engineers who are logging in and pushing public code to the Kubernetes code base.
I got to ask you this. Okay. So like You're one of the best sourcers I know. You train a lot of people in sourcing. You've been speaking on sourcing. What is one of the craziest places that you found somebody sourcing?
Oh, yeah. Set life. So I was working on a role for a client. It was not when I was internal, and I was looking for a director of SEO. And that director of SEO had a profile, and FetLife is supposed to be locked down, but it ain't. And this is back when you could do a reverse image search. So he had the same picture of him on LinkedIn as he did on his FetLife profile. What are you doing? I mean, like, Ben, you're looking at me like I'm crazy. Like, dude, you wouldn't, would you like, it's like, would you put a picture of you and your kid on? No, you would not. Like, common sense tells me don't be that bold. So dude wouldn't respond to me via LinkedIn. Dude would not respond to me via email. Dude responded to a picture of a girl that I put on a profile and sent him a DM through FetLife. And he was like, yeah. And I was like, okay, what's your number? Okay, whatever. Called him. I was like, hey, dude, I'm the recruiter who's been chasing you. I'd love to have a conversation with you. How'd you get this number? I went to your FetLife profile.
So as a podcast host, I know I'm supposed to.
Okay, I know nobody saw that coming. Like, Ben was like, okay, sure, whatever, Brian. Where do you go to find crazy people? Yeah. So
Like, the thing is, like, when you're laughing at on a podcast, I'm not supposed to typically laugh out loud just because it covers up whatever you're saying. And I'm just like, I can't hold this one in.
So I'm very candid with my wife about sourcing that I do. She was the girlfriend at the time. Like, this is how long ago this was, right? And I was like, yeah, I need to do this. And she's like, oh yeah, sure you do. Yeah.
This is freaking awesome.
dude, look, there was a time when I recruited salespeople, and the best way for me to find those salespeople was to go on OkCupid. I'm dead serious. And then I jumped and I was like, oh, I can do this for developers, because like in my career, I went from sourcing and finding sales professionals and connecting with them at scale to the next day, I realized that I could make more money placing these engineering folks than I could be placing $40,000, $50,000 base salary salespeople. It was half the work and half the time for twice the fee, which actually brings us back to the conversation we're having today about AI is coming for sourcing and recruiting as we know it. It is going to fundamentally change the amount of time that goes into it. It is going to change first round interviews. It is going to change predictive analytics. It is going to change messaging and automation. What else you got?
Okay, so there's a lot of people out there that still literally now are still telling me like AI isn't going to like change things. Like, it's not going to affect the recruiting process. The human still needs to be involved. Like, AI is hyped up. I mean, I've been hearing so many things on the side. I almost feel like, and this is just me personally, maybe I'm too deep in the Kool-Aid, but I think a lot of recruiters, especially sourcers, don't know what's going to hit them when it hits them.
Well, I think they're hiding behind ideas that like security and compliance and GDPR and EEO and OFCP and bias and fairness and stakeholder trust and system integration. I think they're hiding behind things that are not going to protect them. All right, Ben, like, so LinkedIn writes emails, right? And sourcers, I don't care who you are as a sourcer, your number one tool is LinkedIn. Okay. If it wasn't, they would not continue to increase the fee every single year. They would not do that. Okay. So LinkedIn writes, I hope this email finds you well. Okay. That is the telltale sign of either a novice recruiter or a chat GPT. It's an obvious roadblock, right? We're currently working on an exciting opportunity that we believe aligns with your work at Adobe, right? No. Okay. But alternatively, if I go over and I decide that I'm going to go in and build a really distinct prompt and say, act as a senior level tech recruiter and explain that the resume aligns well with, and don't use, I hope this email finds you well. analyze for red flags like employment gaps, overlapping dates, expected graduation dates that have passed, score the resume on a score of 1 to 0. It's new. It's a brave new world where people have the tools and they have the talent. They just are putting their head in the sand and they're being married to an opinion. Like 3 or 4 weeks ago, maybe about a month ago, there's the Big Technology podcast, right? And Big Technology podcast is put out by LinkedIn. And on Wednesdays, they have a guest. And on Fridays, they do an AI roundup. So there you go. LinkedIn, there's your shout out. That's what you need to go check out, right? But they had a young lady who is building a companion chatbot. And she is talking about the fact that when she was at Facebook, she built a companion chatbot that would enter dialogue and tell people that they were wrong or their opinions were misinformed, right? That only caused people to become more entrenched in their opinions. So the more we tell recruiters and sourcers, hey, this is going away, the more entrenched they're becoming in their argument. I saw about a month ago, shortly after the Recruiting Innovation Summit, that there was or right before the Recruiting Innovation Summit, there was a really well-known sorcerer, we'll call them Shally Steckerl, who made a comment that he made a post that sourcing was not going to go away. And it blew up. It had all these likes, and Shally, you're so right. Shally, you're a friend of mine. We sit down, we have cheeseburgers, you drink bourbon, I don't drink, whatever. Shally is really gifted at what he does. I think that is the false hope that people are buying into, that recruiting is not changing. You wrote a few months ago, or maybe a month ago, you wrote a post about the $500,000 monthly biller, right? Like 500,000. Like you wrote that like 2 months ago. Anyhow, the point that I want to make about it is that I think that technology is getting so good that we can reduce the sourcing function. We can reduce it to having offshore if need be. And that we are going to see a monumental shift that is just going to take people that are ignoring what's going on. And look, they're conduits. There are ways that they could get ahead of this. It's leaning into the things that you talk about weekly on the podcast. It's leaning into the podcast that I talked about, the Big Technology podcast. It's going on YouTube and saying, teach me how to prompt, right? If you're not going to do that, you need to be ready to be a data analyst who works in predictive analytics. You need to be a market strategist and get really close to the market data. You need to be a recruitment process SME. And what I mean by that is, you need to be doing the kind of work that like Michael Goldberg is doing, where he works to make sure that the recruiting process is better and better built for the organization so things can move in a quicker capacity to close those deals in real time. You need to be a candidate engagement specialist. You need to be a James Ellis. You need to figure out how you're going to connect with candidates one-on-one. About that, you need to be Gary Vaynerchuk. He wrote a book called Thank You Economy. It bombed. It fucking bombed. It was abysmal. It is my favorite book that he has written. Okay. Like, when I show up to meet Gary V, it's the book I have him sign all the time. It is signed on the back. It is signed on the front. It is signed. I will post a picture of it when this podcast goes live, right? But the fact of the matter is that in that book, he talks about building micro relationships with individuals based on micro moments. Sourcers are not doing that today. They have an opportunity to take all the knowledge that they know about a candidate and marry that to creating a micro moment. Gary tells a story about a dude who bought cheap wine from him. All right. Like how could Ben, I know you know great wine. So like, I can't remember the wine, but it was a Pinot Grigio and whatever. And so he talks about it, and he gave his marketing team the responsibility at Wine Library to go in and find people who bought wine from Wine Library and their Twitter handles. And he said he wanted to do a study of it. And he did the study of the Twitter feeds, and they found somebody who had bought an entire case of wine. They didn't tell Gary how much it was, that he bought an entire case of wine, and he was a huge Jay Cutler fan. So what did Gary send him? Gary sent him a Jay Cutler jersey for the Chicago Bears. He sent him a $400 jersey on a $64 purchase of Pinot Grigio. Okay. $8 a bottle, right? Where's the ROI in that? So time goes by. He thinks he's ruined his thesis and what have you. This dude in Texas orders $10,000 worth of wine from Wine Library. It's this guy's first order. And so Gary sends him a note, and the guy writes back and he says, "Hey, Gary, thanks for your note. I really appreciate it. I appreciate what you did for my buddy who's a huge Jay Cutler fan," references that micro moment and says in the email, "By the way, I am a huge Bruce Springsteen fan." Okay. That is all to say that is very roundabout anecdotal evidence to say candidate engagement specialist has to make a meaningful connection. Meaningful connection is not simply an email. So if you want to stay a sorcerer, you cannot just talk through one channel, which is email. You cannot just speak at the candidate through in-mails. You've got to cultivate that relationship across social. You've got to cultivate that relationship in person. You've got to bring that person along on their journey, and you've got to plan that. If sourcing is dead, then you're not going to do that. But if sourcing is alive and well, you're going to have to be that kind of sourcing SME that knows your candidate's motivation, understands the marketplace, understands the market strategies, understands the predictive analytics, and can marry where that person's going to be in the next 3 to 5 years. That's a big fucking lift, bro.
The thing is, it requires, especially for somebody that's an internal sourcer working at a company, it requires you to look past that job. Because we know how often they up level and down level the amount of recruiters that we have. And that's one of the reasons why I think that sourcing is going to be impacted the most. The recruiting director might love the sourcing all day long. Some of the hiring managers might love the sourcing all day long. When the CEO is hey, if I can get this tool for $10,000 a year, but wipe away $1.5 million in salaries and save money, they're going to get the tool time and time again.
Well, maybe it's creating a better candidate experience, which everybody's been harping about, right? You could craft a Boolean string that would make a programmer weep with joy, but the fact of the matter is he doesn't know how you found him. What he knows is whether or not you care about him and how you dug that daemon up and how you engage with that daemon. I mean, Ben, you're right. Sorcerers are going to get commoditized faster than you can say IPO. There are tools. We have talked about these tools. They're not just fancy CRMs. They are AI powered platforms like LinkedIn that do predictive analytics, that do automated outreach sequences, that take your old MailChimp campaigns and they make them look like hieroglyphics. Okay. Every vendor out there is building something that promises to democratize sourcing. They're giving the keys to the kingdom to every 360 recruiter who can click a button.
I'm a sorcerer. I'm sitting there listening to this episode. I'm maybe Benjamin's an idiot, but maybe Brian is right.
No, Brian's a bigger idiot.
What are some of the things that I can start doing to prepare the future me? You did a great job talking about what you need to do right now, but if sourcing is going to die because of its AI, where can I move? How can I shift my career so that way I can keep growing, especially in the recruiting world?
All right. So first off, stop polishing the hay. All right. Let's stop doing that today. Right. The companies that are going to win and the sourcers are going to win are the ones that are empowered to be super recruiters, that they have those tools. There's a video game. It's called Jedi Outcast. It doesn't really matter, but there's a robot that sits on the Jedi's shoulder that tells him what to do and how to do things. And you have a choice. You can do what the robot tells you to do, and it's a very boring game, or you can do nothing that the robot tells you to do and you will die. And that's where we're at, is that we have to focus on the initial outreach. We can automate some of that, but the negotiation, become a master negotiator. I'm sitting here on the desk and I've got never split the difference on my desk. Ben knows that I'm surrounded by books, that we're going to have a book litany list. How about this one? How about Genesis? This is the last book that was written by Henry Kissinger, and it was co-authored by Eric Schmidt, right? Yeah, we're going to get to the book section in a minute, but everybody knows me. I read. I don't watch any TV. Dude, to my sorcerer friends, I'm not saying to throw in the towel, but what I am saying is you need to evolve. You need to do something more than become a Boolean string artisan. You look at leaders like Glenn Cathy, and Glenn Cathy, the original Boolean black belt, he is not saying, oh, write more strings. He is saying, become a data analyst, become a talent market intelligence expert. That is the talk that he gave at RIS, at Recruiting Innovation Summit. That is the talking point that he gave at LinkedIn. That is the talking point that Stacy Zapper gave in the absolute best talk at RecFest 2024. And people were like, no, that's never going to happen, right? That is the talk that Shannon has given. Everybody is trying to prepare you. They do not want you to be hit by a train. The noise that you hear is my dog barking, but the noise that is coming down the track is a train that will roll you over. Step out of the way and then jump on the train.
And in your idea in the future, like you've talked some of the things about where the train is going, but like to continue that thread, where is this train going?
I think right now that the industry is right sizing, is that you are going to have some people that are going to do the things that I've talked about and that you've shared about previously. The sorcerer in this new paradigm is becoming a luxury item. A force multiplier would be somebody who embraces the technology, or somebody who goes really old school and does this and picks up the phone, right? Because it blows candidates' minds. It really does. When you pick up the phone and call them, and look, you can say, Brian, you get applicants. Yeah, I get applicants, right? If I see an applicant that's awesome and I'm like, ooh, I got to talk to that person, I'm picking up the phone and I'm calling them that minute. And if they're busy, they're going to tell me they're busy, but we're going to have a 2-minute conversation where we're going to connect. And I'm going to say something like, hey, Ben, I saw your resume. I know you just applied for this job. You applied for the job 2 minutes ago. Dude, I don't know if you're at work. What are you doing right now? Can we have a conversation?
In my thesis of that recruiter, that super recruiter that can do the 500K months consistently, like part of that thesis is that recruiter is going to be spending hours on the phone every single day.
Maybe not.
I got a few more parts coming out where there are different ways that recruiters can actually win. But for that super recruiter that's not taking the pure tech approach, but is AI empowered, it's going to be about the relationship building.
Okay, so I don't disagree with you. Like, if you want to be the LeBron James of talent acquisition, shout out to Anthony Cedeno, who once had that on his LinkedIn profile. If you want to, I love Anthony. Anthony's awesome. Love Anthony. Get Anthony on the show, whatever. If you want to be the person who doesn't just fill seats, but builds those championship teams, you've got to know and go and get on the phone and spend more than 15 minutes doing a transactional phone screen. You got to go 45 minutes. You got to say, hey, I got another call, but I want to call you back later today, right? Man, if you want to go recruiter to super recruiter, you have to have fluency in your environment. Like you had Rich on, right? Rich Rosen is not one of the best. He is the best recruiter at sales recruiting. I said it, I'm going to get haterade for it, what have you, right? That's because Rich understands market trends. He's able to identify emerging talent pools before competitors are able to go there. He does the research and he understands what is a dud startup and what is legit. All right. So we speak about that. Julia Arpog, who has just rocketed onto the scene, right? This is somebody who's not afraid. They are embracing their fears. They're jumping over them every day. They're using AI. They're using VAs to automate the mundane, to get past the initial screening, the scheduling, the first touch point emails, right? She, no doubt, is going to be $1 million biller year after year consistently. She's on the cusp, right? But I said something earlier about being a data analyst. You got to be a whisperer. You're not just looking at the resume. You're looking at the data behind it. And I say that you're looking at the data behind it because we are living. There was an ad on Uncrate is a product blog. I go to it. It has stuff for men to buy. It's superfluous shit. Okay. But they had an ad about apply AI on there, and it customizes your resume and it does the easy apply component to it, right? You have got to be the person who is tracking what the resume looks like, what the evolution is in it. If you are tracking your own metrics, time to hire, quality to hire, candidate experience scores, and you're using that data, why can't you use this other data about resumes and about candidates and where they come from and what a typical or an atypical career looks like? If you're making data-driven decisions and not just cut calls, you're playing the game. You're playing the next game.
Finish the year strong is going to be the most impactful summit of the year. Every single summit we have held up until this point is preparing for this one. So that way it can propel you to have the strongest quarter yet. Finish the year strong. It's kicking off October 13th and you do not want to miss this. Get registered now. You mentioned something a while back and I want to kind of like loop back to that again. You don't have to be that LeBron James or that coach that puts together the teams to be an absolute crushing it recruiter. Like you can actually go like hardcore on the tech. When you say hardcore on the tech, are you talking about like, I hate to use this phrase, but vibe coding your way to?
Well, Benjamin, I'm glad you asked because I have this book right here. I'm going to do my baby Billy impersonation. Why do I do this, Benjamin? I do it for the people. I make no money. So there's this book. It's called Talk Tech to Me, and it helps technical recruiters upskill their technical know-how in the SDLC. Why do you do it, baby Billy? I do it for the people. I love the people.
I love this. I mean, speaking of book, I mean, you've got another one dropping soon too.
I do. I have Informer Transformer dropping. It should be out towards the beginning of September. It is a journey that I've been working on for the past 2 years. It's looking for the transferable skills of how to recruit for AI engineers specifically, because that's what I've been doing. It talks about shifting from being to a talent advisor, which is a thesis that I've worked really hard with Michael Goldberg on, shifting from being that transactional order taker to a true strategic partner that your hiring managers and your leadership recognize. It's bringing market intelligence to the table, what skills are scarce, how competitive you can be, where hidden talent pools, how you can help shape the talent funnel. And the reason it's called Informer Transformer is because this 400-page book is based on a 15-page paper that is all about how large language models work that was published in the aughts. So there you go. Only I could turn 15 pages into 400, but that's where we're at.
That's awesome. So make sure to pick that up when it goes live, guys. But okay,
you can lift with it. You can ruck with the book. I mean, that's the plan, right?
I'll bring it on one of my runs. So just picture this. Like you're a sorcerer listening to this. Like, okay, the train's coming. My leadership doesn't really see it yet. What is one of the things that I can pitch to my leadership to like, hey, we need to start shifting things now and start preparing?
All right. So I know that I'm a quick talker and I usually have all the answers. I think that what you've got to do is I think you've got to go out on your own and you've got to experiment with multiple GPTs. We've talked about chat in this conversation. We've talked about Perplexity. We've not talked about Claude. I mean, Claude, it was announced, Anthropic's Claude. I think the CEO keeps saying, oh, in 5 years, there are going to be no entering white collar jobs or something like that. They released a version of Claude that can code for 8 hours straight. All right. Like start experimenting with these, start playing with them, right? Like be a kid again.
I mean, what's crazy is like the new Claude, like the coding thing of Claude. I've been a huge fan of like talking to people about like make.com, N8N. And like, it sounds like this new version of Claude, like runs circles around them.
So I think that this new version of Claude, I played with it hard because there are two things about it, is that somebody compared it to Manus. And if you haven't played with Manus, I encourage you to do so. Jim Stroud turned me on to Manus. Shout out to Jim Stroud. Love you, Jim. So who's an OG sorcerer, right? He's an OG sorcerer who is like, I'm getting on the AI train and I'm going to source with AI. And he's using Manus, right? Just to put this into perspective though, like you need to be curious. I say that great recruiters, and I had this talk at SourceCon, that great recruiters and great sourcers have 4 character traits. They're curious, they're empathetic, they're tenacious, and they're mischievous. Be mischievous, play around, do some epic shit. Okay. Recruiters are not going to be replaced and sorcerers are not going to be replaced because they have high emotional intelligence. They can read between the lines. They can understand nuanced motivations. They can connect with people on a human level. We're still going to be hiring for cultural fit. Or are we going to impose, like I was having a conversation with a peer of mine the other day, is that 9 times out of 10, if a candidate says, oh, I have a prior criminal conviction, I was a bank robber, the hiring manager or the recruiter is going to have a gut reaction. And they're going to say, oh, I don't know if you should apply for this job. That's discrimination, right? The AI recruiter, I bet you the AI recruiter is programmed, is smart enough when it says, that's great. I still think you should apply for this job. We make sure to give people that, like in San Francisco, that follow the second chance guidelines, right? I think there's going to be some legalese, and I think there's going to be some empathy, and there's going to be some leadership potential that bots truly can't measure. And that's going to give you the opportunity to get in there and prevent yourself from becoming obsolete. but you got to get in there. You got to be mischievous because the market shifts, roles change, candidates get cold feet. Ben, like I was talking to you the other day and you were like, yeah, so-and-so backed out. And I was like, oh, right. So can AI immediately pick up a silver medalist and run the ball down the field and say, and get, no, you're shaking your head, right? But this is all to say recruiting is going to be optimized. The role of the sorcerer is definitely going to dwarf. So that's what I got. Bring on the haterade.
I'm sure you're going to get some. It's anytime you post anything like that, like especially when this goes live. When we are recording this, probably by the time it goes live, Claude will have a new updated something. OpenAI is going to have a new updated something. My mind's blown on VO3 and watch VO4 be like dropped by then.
Oh, hold on. What about this, right? We talked about apply AI. Is that Google released at I/O, they released a agent that you can build that will autonomously move your cursor around in your browser, right? So if it does that, you talk about vibe coding. What about people who say they're doing work and the computers and, like the nanny cam kind of flips on every now and then and the cursor's moving around and it's just doing automation instead of the robo mouse, right? Get mischievous. That's the takeaway from this podcast. That's going to be what this is going to be titled. I can just see this now. Like Allie's going to be like, Brian, what did you do? Did you tell the story again?
Well, okay. So we've talked a lot about like the sourcing role, the changes, the delusion that people are having. But I know we were talking about this before we get started, but there's an interesting thing that you see that might be picking up steam. The rise of fractional. Why is that?
Yeah. So I think that companies in the future are going to do more with less, right? And I think that what's going to happen, and I wish that my friend Anessa Fike, who is the queen of fractional TA, shout out to Anessa. I wish she was on the call with us because she could add a lot more flavor to this. But as companies become smaller, they're probably going to outsource more and more of specialized functions to people who can really leverage their strength, right? Who can really be a pro. We've already seen it with RPOs, right? You need tech recruiting, you go get this RPO. You need accounting and finance recruiting, you get this agency. It's simply a different opportunity for us to jump in and for us to provide that leadership. And I think that as you have more recruiters that are laid off from their corporate roles, that they're probably going to be able to take that very transferable skill of corporate recruiting and pivot in and be like an agency plus or be like corporate recruiting plus and be in that fractional capacity, right? So I think that with AI, if we spend, I'm going to like, if I'm a fractional head of TA and I use Juicebox or I use Pen to find that talent for me and engage that talent, and then for me to drive it over the finish line, why did you need a bench that was 4 recruiters deep? I don't know, right? When you could just hire in a fractional, especially if you're planning on scaling, like let's say that, like I said, I don't think companies are going to hyperscale anymore. I think that we're in an era of diligence and financial resilience. Financial resilience is that you are not driving negative EBITDA at all costs of growth, right? So as you look at that, you bring people on as you need them, you cycle them off as you don't need them. We talked about this with the rise of the gig economy. Gig economy kind of hit the rocks in 2018, 2022, especially 2022 when things were crazy. Like, why does this recruiter keep calling me? Now it's 2023, 2024, 2025. Why aren't these recruiters calling me? Right? Like, yeah. So I think fractional is definitely, it's going to be the next logical place that a lot of corporate recruiters can go to.
All right. We covered a lot.
Yeah, we did. And FetLife.
Before we jump to the quickfire questions, is there anything else that you want to go deeper on or that I planned to talk about, but I forgot?
Dude, I just, I would just say that I think that the future is hybrid. And if you can't embrace the future and you're going to be married to the past, you're going to get hit by that train. You're going to get rolled over by that truck. All right, quick fire question.
They don't need to be quick answers.
I know.
All right, just making sure. Well, let's just say that like you get lots of people reach out to you. Everybody knows you, Brian.
I do office hours on Friday afternoon from 12 p.m. Eastern to 4 p.m. Eastern. If you have a question, just put it on my calendar. Yeah.
Okay, so like you get somebody that pops into the office hours, like, hey, I actually just became a recruiter this year, like, over the last few months. Never been a recruiter before. I hear about all these crazy things. I heard you on this podcast. Like, how do I be successful in this career?
Okay, so I think that you need to go niche with your tooling and with the vertical that you want to go into and that you want to know. That answer comes to me by way of two great people. Diane Prince. Diane Prince says that you should go niche and you should know it better than anybody else. I think that a woman who has built and sold an agency and continues to do it in a serial capacity, I think she knows what she's talking about. Okay. Number two, a little bit of a longer story. There's this guy. His name is the Boolean black belt. I have already referenced Glenn Cathy on this call once. Glenn Cathy, do we have time for a really short stalker story?
Sure, why not?
Okay. So once upon a time, Glenn Cathy avoided my calls. He avoided the Fank. All right. And so I had a Twitter alert set up for whenever Glenn tweeted because I wanted to be on Glenn's radar. Right. And Glenn tweeted his location based on Foursquare. And I noticed that he was going to a bar, or he was at a bar that was right around the corner from the house. And I'm like, oh, let me buy you a drink. Let me buy you a drink. Let me buy you a drink. I get a DM from Glenn. He's like, I get a response and he's like, hey, this really isn't the environment, whatever. And I'm like, too bad, I'm already here. And I was, right? And so I'm like, Glenn, let me buy you a drink and tell me what I need to know to be a really great recruiter. Like, what tool should I use? Should I use this? Should I use that? I'm totally fanboying over this, right? And Glenn goes, you just need to know 3 things really well. And that's it. So what I would do is I would pass that advice that Glenn Cathy gave me about 15 years ago on to the next generation recruiter, is that you just need to know 3 things really, really well. Is it your niche? Is it that one technology? Do you know Boolean better than anybody else? If you do, you can be the Boolean black belt. Or do you know how to use AI better than anybody else? Or give you this one. Clark Wilcox and I talk about this all the time, is that I have my follow-up Friday. I have my Hot 100, my Hot FM, right? Those are the people that I'd take 25 people each week that I DM or send a personalized message to, or pick up the phone and call them and say, what is going on in your world to build a better relationship? And I think I do that, and nobody else does it like I do it. So learn those 3 things and know what they are. So take a little bit of Diana Prince, take a little bit of Glenn Cathy, mix them up in a shaker, and drink that drink like Glenn Cathy did, and just pass it all on the table and be like, next, please.
So we've talked a lot about tools. We've talked about AI. Do you, and I know tools change constantly. It's one of the fun things. But
no, it's not the fun thing, because unless you buy it, the lifetime pass on AppSumo, it is not fun to chase down all these subscriptions. But go ahead. All right.
I mean, I probably pay way too much. And it's a good thing my wife doesn't see the AppSumo bill at the end of the year. The tax guys, the hell is AppSumo?
Yeah.
But do you have like a favorite, like 1 or 2 tools at the moment?
Yeah. My favorite tool is actually on my iPhone. I'm going to send this to you so you can put it in for your users. Is that Apple years ago bought an app that is called Shortcuts, and it allows you to run automated processes on your iPhone, right? What I'm pulling up right now is that I have one shortcut to order my Starbucks. Wherever I am, it finds the Starbucks that's closest to me and orders it. But there's a search that I built that's called Automagical Search. And what it does is it brings together 4 different search engines inside of Siri and does the search. So I want to search for Benjamin Mena, and I'm going to run the search, and it says, do I want to look for him on Google, Twitter, YouTube, Reddit, Instagram, hashtag, whatever, right? So now I need to show this. So it's going to go out and run all these searches to bring back the candidate for me. It's on my iPhone. I run it on my laptop. It's a pretty cool tool. Number 2, I've talked about Perplexity. I love Perplexity. I love Perplexity over chat. Perplexity, the $20 a month version, or the 5 free searches or whatever. You can put like Dude, I have a friend who's at a major auto company, and she was looking for HRBPs the other day that had not worked for that major auto company in the major auto company hub. And we just built a string. I mean, didn't build a string. We just talked in natural language to Perplexity, and boom, out came a list of 500 HRBPs in that metro area that had not worked for that company with their LinkedIn profiles. And some of them had contact information. $20 a month.
Way cheaper than some of these sourcing tools.
But here's the other thing is that some of these sourcing tools take the demo, see if it really saves you the time, and then think about it and say, okay, Diana Prince again. All right. Like Diana Prince has a cost calculator on her website for you to break down how you should do contractors, right? Make yourself your number one contractor. How much do you have to pay an hour to get you to do awesome work? Well, can I reduce the cost and exponentially force multiply what I'm doing? Then $20 is worth it if it takes me 5 minutes to do what used to take me 30 minutes to pull the list.
$20 worth it. Like, I mean, if you start looking at things on a weekly basis on that, like a $99 to a $300 a month tool saves you a lot of time.
Oh, 100%. There are certain tools that, I mean, and if you want, DM me and I'll give you my greatest hits of toolkits. I think I've mentioned a few of them on this call. Dude, I mean, like, I was looking at it last night. It's like Handshaky or something like that. I asked GPT and I asked Perplexity, what are the number one contact finding tools? And it gave a breakdown of like what you would pay monthly. And this one was like $36, and it compared at the same level of Apollo, but they also gave the rating of the reliability of the email addresses and whether or not phone numbers were found. I will find it. It's Sales Handy. I think that's what it was, right? I'm going to play with that tool and see what it does, right? That goes back to being mischievous. If you've got $20, go be mischievous.
If it is Sales Handy, if you want a good laugh, I actually have a lifetime deal on that one. I got it like 2 years ago.
Of course you do, right? So, and that's the other thing that I would say that you need to be doing if you're not doing is you need to be creating content, because the GPTs are going to absorb your writing and they're going to absorb your video, and people are going to stop going to Google, and they're already starting to do it. I mean, like Perplexity, like I use it for vacation planning, right? It's incredible. And I use it as a shopping engine. It's awesome. I haven't given up Google yet, but like,
do you know what's wild is I've had, the summits that I put on, I've had the pages from the speakers getting pulled into Perplexity and ChatGPT results that have been kicked back to me when I'm asking stuff. So like what's going on the speaker pages and what the speakers are actually adding into, it's now being pulled into data that like into these AI tools that I'm using as part of the results.
100, right? So like produce it, query it, go for it, right? That's what I got.
Awesome. Book. Favorite book.
You know what my favorite book is, and you hate it, so I'm not going to bring it up, but I'm going to bring up another book that you need to get a hold of. It's called The Next Conversation. It's by the guy's last name is Fisher. He just became like a Gary Vee speaker. Next Conversation is about winning arguments. And it's not about winning arguments. It's about having positive exchanges that lead to social outcomes, right? And it was Harrison. I can't, no, it's Fisher's last name, but like dude, I keep buying it. I keep writing it up. I keep marking it up. Micah, if you're listening, I'd like you to bring my book back, because I know you have the most recent copy of it, but like Next Conversation, I would take a look at that, because so often we as Americans, we get into this adversarial conversation that we have with people, is that it's really about making space for people to be heard and seen. It's a really compelling book.
So you do a lot. You open office hours. Like I've seen you help more people than most any recruiter out there. You probably don't think about this, but do you think about like a legacy that you're trying to leave?
I don't think about my legacy. I think about people like Steve Levy and Derek Zeller and Pete Radloff and Shannon Pritchett and Ronnie Bratcher. They're all the Titans' shoulders that I get to stand on. Sorry, I'm a little choked up because, I mentioned Derek, and Derek just had a scholarship name for him at Recruit DC to further that on. But like Steve Levy, dude, I probably pissed Steve off more than he lets on, because like I just call him with like bullshit questions. He's like, Brian, why didn't you think about going to da 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 to find the answer to that? Or B, why don't you try this? I have learned so much from them. I remember when Shannon's actually one of the people who taught me Boolean. Is that a real quick short story? Is that I had started my agency. I got my first check. I was like, I'm going to buy a new MacBook Pro and I'm going to get some training on how to be a really good recruiter. And I went through AIR's certification, and Shannon, in the third class I took, she taught it. And I ask always, just like you do, like you ask people, how can you be better at what you do? How can you craft a better? She said, type in a Boolean string every day. I'm still typing in Boolean strings, and now I'm going to chat and I'm typing different things into chat to see what kind of reactions I get from Perplexity or from GPT. My legacy is my daughter, right? Like, she's my ace, right? But like, I do what I do because Steve Levy and Derek Zeller and Pete Radloff and Shannon Pritchett and Ronnie Bratcher told me that this is what we do to take care of our own.
You've got over a 20-year career in recruiting. Like, you've had your agency.
It'll be 20 years in November. Okay. So let's not say over anything yet.
If you want a good laugh, I think I'm 20 years coming in January.
All right. Let's get it on. All right.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Like, you've been internal, you've been a sorcerer, you've had your own agency, you've worked at agency, like you've done all sorts of things. What is one of the biggest failures that you've had to work through in this 20-year career?
It was meeting payroll when we didn't have the money. If you're going to be an agency and you're going to own your own agency, you have clients that depend on you, you have candidates that depend on you, but the people who depend on you the most are your employees, are your partners, right? And so very candidly, we, for reasons that I won't go into because they're embarrassing to other people, we didn't have the money to meet payroll. And, I went to a lot of people and asked them, hey, can I borrow 5? Can I borrow 6? Can I borrow whatever? I went to my dad. I love my dad. My dad is my number one, right? Like, he's an entrepreneur. He's hero. I went to my dad. My dad said, this is the lesson you got to learn yourself. So I went out and borrowed from one of these receivable lenders at a exorbitant 30 to 40% interest rate so I could make payroll. That is the number one fear that I have about jumping in and having my own agency again someday. I got to get over it.
How long did it take you to recover from that loan?
Well, most of my people smelled death in the water, and I'm like, there are people who hung on with me, like Mike Morris, Lauren Rubin, like there are people who hung on with me, but I'd say that, we were cut in half, dude, and I don't know. I think it was relatively quickly that I ended up selling the assets of the organization and all the contractors we had on billing and what have you. It took me a while, but like, dude, it set me back. Like, we talk about, Julia talks about that she wants to retire her husband. Okay. Julia, I hope that you do it. Right. The reality of it is that, like, at that time in my life, the only thing I wanted to do was get married. And that set me back. Like, I mean, it made me lose my confidence. There's the financial, yes, but there was also like, dude, I think I thought that I sucked as a recruiter, right? No, I didn't suck as a recruiter. I sucked as a money manager. Okay. Like, that's it. And I think it set me back psychologically for a while. And if it wasn't for, Jeff Audette, who I think I've mentioned on previous podcasts, Jeff is who I started with. Is that I went back to Jeff and I became his director of recruiting, and I rebuilt the permanent placement side of his business. Right. And got that moving forward. Like, the money, it probably took me like 3 or 4 months to get the money. Right. But like, psychologically, I think it fucked me up for 6 months to a year. But like, that's the thing, is that like, we grow through these brutal experiences, right? Like, you don't grow through, lounging around in silk. You grow by hitting the pavement with concrete and not knowing how you're going to get back up, but finding a way. And dude, I found a way. And once I found that way, I was able to find my way with other people. I was able to find my way when I was working for Josh and took his firm from 7 figures to 8 figures and grew that. I was able to find my way in corporate recruiting. I was able to find my way when I was with Mark. It just, as painful as that experience was, dude, that was awesome sauce.
Awesome sauce now.
Yeah, I mean, it was not awesome sauce like showing up at Christmas. Everybody knows I'm Jewish, but like, I celebrate everything because my mom is Catholic. It's like showing up at like, dude, Valerie Siegel, shout out to her. Valerie has nothing to do with recruiting, right? But Valerie is that friend who was working at the Gap, and she was like, I know you don't have a lot of money to work with, but I know you want to take care of the people who are close to you. Here's my discount. We're going to go and we're going to buy people gifts, right? Like, it was some humble pie. Like, it was being the top of the mountain, yeah. Because when things are good, everybody's like, attaboy. When things are bad, faboosh.
Where were your friends at? Them.
Yeah. It's like, we're not going for Chinese. We're not going for sushi. We're not going to Vegas. What's going on? Players.
That kind of goes into like,
wow. This is a somber note to end this on. Usually, like, I'm the hype man, right?
I mean, you are the hype man, and this goes into the last question I have for you. So you get asked questions all the effing time about recruiting, all the time.
Yeah.
Like, is there a question that you wish people would actually ask you but never do?
I get asked so many things. I don't know, Ben. I mean, like, I know that clarifying questions and things like that can help people identify objectives. I mean, like, people know, like, I've struggled with like mental health, and they always ask me how I'm doing psychologically and things like that, or what I'm reading, but like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I think the question that people asked me the most, and it was like, I was having coffee with Amber Thompson from Thompson Technologies. Shout out to Amber the other day. And she said, B, what can I do to help you? And I'm like, I don't know. That's a great question. I wish I could pivot and find an answer to that question, Ben.
Well, how about this? If they want to know the question, they can hit you up and ask it.
Dude, they can hit me up and ask it. They can DM me. Like, my DMs are open on Facebook, on Instagram. I write every day on Substack. I write a lot about recruiting and leadership. Yeah, that's where I'm at, dude. Or LinkedIn, or the LinkedIn.com. I'm Brian Fink at the LinkedIn.com.
Well, Brian, before I let you go, if there's one last thing that you want to share with the listeners, what is it?
We've talked about a lot of different things today, and we've talked about change, and we've talked a lot about fear. Okay. Like, fear is the underlying thing here. I don't know who said it, but they're right. Everything you ever wanted is on the other side of being afraid. Run through that wall. F and go.
You know what? We're just going to end it on that. F and go. 2025 needs you. So F and go.
F and go. Let's get after it.
All right. See you guys next time, guys. Admin is a massive waste of time. That's why there's Atlas, the AI first recruitment platform built for modern agencies. It doesn't only track resumes and calls. It remembers everything. Every email, every interview, every conversation, instantly searchable, always available. And now it's entering a whole new era. With Atlas 2.0, you can ask anything and it delivers. With Magic Search, you speak and it listens. It finds the right candidates using real conversations, not simply looking for keywords. Atlas 2.0 also makes business development easier than ever. With opportunities, you can track, manage, and grow client relationships powered by generative AI and built right into your workflow. Need insights? Custom dashboards give you total visibility over your pipeline. And that's not theory. Atlas customers have reported up to 41% EBITDA growth and an 85% increase in monthly billings after adopting the platform. No admin, no silos, no lost info, nothing but faster shortlists, better hires, and more time to focus on what actually drives revenue. Atlas is your personal AI partner for modern recruiting. Don't miss the future of recruitment. Get started with Atlas today and unlock your exclusive listener offer at recruitwithatlas.com. Recruiters, imagine having a recruiting sidekick that works 24 hours a day. Meet Pin, your AI-powered assistant that never sleeps. Pin combs through over 850 million candidate profiles to find perfect fits for your clients, even those hard-to-find unicorns. It then engages them across email, LinkedIn, and SMS with smart outreach that gets nearly half of candidates to respond. And Pin doesn't stop there. It automatically screens resumes with pinpoint precision and handles the back and forth of interview scheduling for you. It's like having an extra team member who never clocks out, so you can fill roles faster and focus on closing deals. Visit pin.com to book your demo today.